Okay, let's dive in. You know that feeling, right? When you're trying to get anyone, to really see things your way.
Oh, yeah, like trying to get them on board with a new idea, or maybe just explaining why your favorite restaurant really is the best one.
Exactly. Or maybe pitching something big at work, or even, I don't know, getting friends to agree on a movie.
Feels like pushing a boulder uphill
It
sometimes.
really does. That ability, though, to guide people effectively, to kind of bring them along with your thinking, it feels, well, powerful.
Definitely. And that's what we're unpacking today, isn't it? This whole world of persuasion and
Oh, you
influence.
are diving deep into it.
And it's a world that gets misunderstood a lot, I think. People hear persuasion and immediately think manipulation, maybe high pressure sales.
Force, deceit, that
R-
kind of thing.
Right. But the source material we're digging into today, it looks like a training guide, maybe from a sales background, possibly
Hmm.
hotels, based on some examples.
Seems that way, yeah.
It frames persuasion completely differently. It's presented more as a collection of strategies, principles,
Mhm.
ways to guide people towards an idea or action.
But collaboratively, that's the
Mhm.
key part, in a way that benefits everyone.
Exactly. Not forcing, not tricking, guiding.
So our mission here for this deep dive is to really pull apart this guide, find those core techniques, the principles underneath it all.
We're looking for those aha moments,
Okay.
the things that make you go, oh, that's why that works, or maybe that's what someone was doing to me.
Huh. Yeah, understanding how we influence and how we are influenced. It's about getting the dynamics, not through force, but through, well, understanding connection.
And finding that mutual benefit, that sweet spot.
Right. And the guide kicks off with a quote, doesn't it? From Lincoln.
It does. It sets the tone immediately.
If you would win a man to your cause, first convince him that you are his sincere friend.
Wow. Okay, so forget the clever arguments for a second.
Exactly. It puts the spotlight straight onto the relationship. It suggests persuasion starts way before the pitch. It starts with connection, rapport, being seen as trustworthy,
Someone who actually cares about the other person's side of things.
which is, I guess, a perfect lead-in to defining what this source means by persuasion.
Hmm.
Its collaborative nature. It's more than just winning, right?
Right. The guide defines it pretty simply. The process of guiding people toward the adoption of one's views.
Okay, straightforward.
But here's the crucial bit it adds. This process does not rely on force or deceit. That's the line in the sand. No coercion, no lies.
So in the context, this guide seems to come from maybe sales, those hotel executives you mentioned. It's framed differently.
Yeah, it's framed as a problem-solving strategy.
Ooh, I like that. Problem solving. That changes the whole feel. It's not me versus you anymore.
Exactly. It shifts it away from conflict, from someone winning and someone losing, towards a joint effort. The guide really emphasizes that the ideal result is a decision.
One that comes from a collaborative approach
Yes, where everyone accomplishes their goals without giving something up.
without giving something up. That's a powerful phrase.
It really is. It underlines that this kind of persuasion, the ethical kind the guide talks about, isn't zero sum.
It's not about squeezing concessions out of someone.
No, it's about finding that place where you get what you need, the sale, the buy-in, but the other person also feels like their needs are met, like their problem is solved, they're satisfied.
Mutual benefit. Finding that win-win.
That's the goal.
So it's less about power over someone and more like a partnership with them, even if you're the one suggesting the direction.
Well put. And the guide is pretty clear this isn't some magic talent you're born with. Some people might seem like naturals.
But it's learnable.
Definitely. It's a learned skill, something you practice and get better at over time with conscious effort.
Okay, good news for all of us then.
Absolutely. And according to this guide, the absolute bedrock, the foundation for all of it, rapport.
Rapport. Okay.
It quotes a motivational trainer, Peter Lowe, saying, the key to persuasion is establish rapport. Plain and simple.
So you can have the best logic, the most passion, squeaky clean ethics,
Yeah.
but without rapport.
Your efforts are going to be seriously uphill, significantly hampered, as the guide puts it.
Right. So let's really dig into that.
Mhm.
Rapport. What does it actually look like? How do you build it according to this source?
Well, the guide says it's about specific behaviors, things you actually do, attitudes you adopt.
Okay, practical stuff. Love it.
Yeah, things that make people feel comfortable with you, trust you, feel like, listening to you is actually in their best interest.
Creating that goodwill, mutual respect.
Exactly. It's not just a fuzzy feeling. There are concrete actions.
So what's the first one? Where do we start with building rapport?
The first one sounds simple, but it's maybe the hardest in practice. Shift your focus to others.
Meaning,
Consciously, deliberately, put the other person's wants, needs, perspectives first, before your own agenda.
That feels backwards, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If I'm the one trying to persuade them, my instinct is to focus on my goal.
Totally counterintuitive. But the guide argues that's exactly what you need to fight against, instead of focusing on your goal or maybe the differences between you.
You look for the common ground.
Yes. Actively seek it out. Shared interests, values, maybe just a shared problem you're both trying to solve right now. Build on that.
Starting from us instead of me versus you.
Ugh.
Lowers defenses, I guess.
It does. And under this focus on others umbrella, the guide also mentions using genuine appreciation.
Compliments.
Honest ones, yeah. Not the slimy flattery people see right through, a real sincere acknowledgement of something you value about them or their work.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
The guide points out something interesting here too, doesn't it?
About critics versus reinforcement.
Yeah.
It says something like, there are plenty of critics out there, but genuine positive reinforcement is rare.
So true. A sincere compliment stands out. It feels good, shows you're paying attention.
Builds that connection. And closely related is this idea of making the other person the center of your universe, just for that moment.
Okay, that sounds potentially tricky.
The guide acknowledges that. It says it may sound manipulative, but quickly clarifies it's really about being attentive.
Attentive, like really listening, fully present.
Yes. Deep listening. Not just hearing words, but getting the meaning, the concerns, the needs underneath. The guide argues this isn't manipulation, it's the foundation for actually understanding them.
And when you truly understand where they're coming from.
You can work together much better, accomplish more. It's not about pushing your agenda in a vacuum.
Okay, so
Okay.
focus on them, find common ground, genuine appreciation, be truly attentive. Solid start. What's next for building rapport?
The next behavior is about emotion. Try to arouse a positive emotion.
Create positive feelings. How does that work in, say, a business setting?
The guide gives some, well, almost charmingly old-fashioned examples, especially for customer relationships, like writing a quick handwritten thank you note.
Just because.
Yeah, or sending a note for seemingly no reason at all, like, hope you have a great summer, or get this, Happy Arbor Day.
Happy Arbor Day. Okay, that would definitely stand out. Unexpected, memorable, probably make me smile.
Right. It's about doing something kind, unexpected, not tied to a sale, something that makes them feel valued as a person, not just a transaction. Sending a birthday card is another one it mentions.
These are pure relationship building things, creating goodwill.
Exactly. Beyond notes, though, how else can you generate positive feelings, maybe when you're actually discussing your idea?
Good question.
The guide talks about using vivid language, stories, metaphors, things that create excitement.
So instead of just listing facts about, say, a meeting room,
Describe the vibe of a great event held there before. Show pictures of cool decorations, the lighting. Talk about the energy, paint a picture.
make it feel real, exciting, tap into their emotions, not just their logic brain.
You got it. And maybe get your team involved too. Show you're
Okay.
all enthusiastic. That energy is contagious.
Connect on that emotional level,
Mm-hmm.
which seems to link nicely to the next behavior, asking better questions.
It does, absolutely. It loops back to being attentive. The source kind of sighs here, saying most of us don't work on asking good questions.
Guilty as charged, probably.
Huh. Maybe we all are sometimes. It gives an example. Someone tells you about something tough they went through. A common, but kind of weak, responses.
Like, oh, wow, or isn't that something? Sort of acknowledges they spoke, but doesn't really engage.
Exactly. Passive. But a thoughtful, rapport-building response would be a genuine question. Something that shows you heard and you care.
Like, are you okay? Or is there anything I can do?
That's it. A huge difference. It moves from just filling silence to active engagement, empathy, offering support.
And that kind of conversation, built on good questions. That's where the real connection happens.
That's what the guide argues. It's the basis for rapport, which builds trust. And then it drops that crucial line. People buy from people they trust.
Makes perfect sense.
But with a big flashing warning sign, this sort of sentiment only works if you genuinely mean it.
Authenticity again. The BS detector. You can't fake caring.
You really can't. People sense it. And poof, trust gone. It's fragile. Built on consistency and sincerity.
Okay, so the rapport building toolkit includes being other-focused, sparking positive feelings, asking great questions genuinely. What's the last piece in this section?
Keep your perspective. This one's about balance.
Balance. How so?
It acknowledges that, look, you're probably passionate about your idea, right? You believe in it, your expertise supports it, persuasion feels critical.
Yeah, you can get really invested.
Totally. But then the guide offers this grounding advice. The world won't stop spinning today if you can't convince someone.
Huh. Okay, a reality check.
Pretty much. Even with all your passion, you gotta lighten up a bit. Maybe today isn't the day, and that's okay. Tomorrow's another shot.
That feels important. Stops you getting too intense, too pushy. Keeps that collaborative feel. Lose perspective and can feel like pressure, like manipulation.
Exactly. It helps you play the long game. The relationship is often worth more than winning this one single point right now.
Right. So rapport is foundational, built through focusing on others, positive vibes, good questions, and keeping perspective. Makes sense.
Totally. And once you have that rapport, the guide introduces the 3 legs of persuasion, essential components.
Ah, the three-legged stool metaphor. Miss one leg.
And boom, it collapses. Your whole persuasive effort falls flat.
So what are the 3 legs?
Logic, passion, and ethics.
Logic, passion, ethics, mind, heart, and character. Okay, let's take logic first. What's that involved?
Simple idea. Your proposal, your vision, it must make sense to the person you are trying to encourage. It has to be rational, coherent.
So great rapport isn't enough. The idea itself needs to hold water from their point of view.
Precisely. And the source breaks down how to make sure that logic lands. First up, vision. Do you even know exactly where you're going? What's the clear end goal? What's the value you're offering?
Can't lead someone logically if you're fuzzy on the destination yourself.
Nope. Second, clarity. Is that vision simple, easy to grasp? Can you paint the picture? Are you using language they get or drowning them in jargon?
Especially important if you're, say, that hotel expert talking to someone outside the industry.
Absolutely. Translate. Third, communication. Can you actually articulate that clear vision compellingly? Build a strong argument. Highlight the benefits for them.
That OBF thing the guide mentions, other benefiting features.
Exactly. Frame the logic around their win. And the guide says you need to keep talking about this vision so the logic sinks in. Repetition, clarity, benefit focus.
OBF tying into YFM, what's in it for me? Logic tailored to them.
You got it. And fourth piece under logic is strategy. Is there a plan? A roadmap? How do we get there?
Makes sense. Need the how.
And the guide adds a practical note. Anything worth accomplishing is worth measuring. Having metrics reinforces the logic. Shows it's working.
Okay, logic.
Yeah.
Clear, simple, compelling vision. Communicated effectively, backed by a measurable strategy. Got it. What about leg 2? Passion. Seems almost the opposite of
Of
logic.
course, the guide sees that, but argues passion is not just vital, it's becoming more important, especially now in what it calls the postmodern era.
More important than logic, really.
Well, maybe not more important overall, but increasingly influential. The source suggests that today, with media, the video age, as it calls it, people are swayed less by pure reason.
And more by things that move them. Emotion, images, music.
Exactly. It uses that great example of selling basketball shoes.
Right, the ads don't list the specs.
No rubber density or leather grade. They show players bawling, maybe to a cool beat. They sell the feeling, the identity, the excitement, the passion.
Selling the dream, not the engineering. Gotcha.
So the guide asks, does your passion come through? Your enthusiasm for your product, your team, the outcome? Can people feel it when you talk? Is it in your materials? People connect with that energy.
Okay, so logic is the what and how. Passion is the why it matters, the emotional engine.
Nicely put. Which brings us to the third leg, the one the guide implies is maybe the most critical, ethics.
Ethics, character.
And the guide is blunt here. If your followers see a crack in your character, they will run for the hills.
Wow. Okay, so integrity trumps brilliant ideas and amazing energy.
According to this source, absolutely. It says, people allow for mistakes, everyone messes up. But they will not allow for poor character.
Oof. High stakes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It poses those gut check questions. Am I honest? Do I do what's right? Am I responsible? Am I a person of integrity?
The fundamentals.
And says the other person's yes or no answer to those questions about you determines if they'll follow you, buy from you, trust you. Your character is your persuasive power in a big way.
So flawless logic, infectious passion. But if they don't trust your character, game over. Or worse, it feels manipulative.
Exactly. The guide even calls strong character a competitive differentiator. In a world where trust is sometimes scarce, ethics makes you stand out. It mentions full disclosure too, being upfront even when it's tough builds that long-term trust.
Build on that reputation. Okay, logic, passion, ethics, all 3 legs are essential for balanced, effective persuasion.
That's the model. And building on that, the guide moves into these predictable human responses. the laws of persuasion.
Laws. Sounds like fundamental principles of how people react.
Pretty much. The idea is we develop these almost automatic responses in our culture. Understanding them makes persuasion possible.
But there's a warning.
Big warning.
Yeah.
This predictability is also what allows shady characters to manipulate people, exploit these tendencies. The guide really wants you, the listener, to think about how these laws have worked on you.
Critical framing. Understand them to use ethically, but also to recognize them when they're used on you. Okay, what's law #1?
Law #1, reciprocity. Simple idea. When someone gives you something of perceived value, you immediately respond with the desire to give something back.
The desire. Not a guarantee you will, but you feel that pull, that obligation.
That's the key. It's the psychological trigger, that feeling of I owe them. The classic example is the birthday gift, right? Someone give you something nice.
And you feel you got to match it or even top it when their birthday rolls around.
Totally. That's reciprocity in action. We all feel it.
So how does this apply in, say, business? The guide talks about service mistakes.
Yeah, it suggests we often feel overly obligated to give stuff away, discounts, financial compensation for minor slip-ups, like a coffee break running late or a small contract error.
Instead of just saying, oops, sorry, we'll fix that, we jump to giving away money because we feel we owe them for the inconvenience.
Exactly. The guide suggests, yes, acknowledge the mistake, that's good character, but instead of defaulting to cash discounts, maybe focus on giving value that costs you less.
Like
Like a complimentary upgrade, an extra service, priority treatment next time. Things the customer still sees as valuable, satisfying that reciprocity urge, but without hurting your bottom line unnecessarily. Have a list ready, it suggests.
smart, leverage the psychology ethically, protect your interests. Okay, law #2.
Law #2. Contrast. This one's about comparison. When two items are relatively different, we will see them as more different if placed near together in time or space.
Putting things side by side or showing them one after another makes the differences pop.
Exactly. Salespeople live by this. The guide uses the classic real estate trick. Show the buyer a slightly rundown, okay-ish house for $175K first.
And then show them the much nicer $200 K house.
Right. And suddenly that $200K house looks even better by comparison. Amazing value. Makes the first one seem drab and dull. And the guide notes people remember the last thing shown more vividly.
Makes the price difference seem smaller for the perceived jump in quality.
Totally. So applying it to selling packages, show the basic, maybe bare bones package first.
Then unveil the slightly pricier one with all the cool extras.
And by contrast, that second package looks like a fantastic deal. All those bells and whistles seem like incredible value compared to the first one. Harder to resist the upgrade.
Okay, reciprocity, contrast, mental
Agreed.
shortcuts. What's law #3?
Law #3. Friends, this goes right back to rapport and trust. When someone asks you to do something and you perceive that person to have your best interests in mind, or you want them to have your best interests in mind, you are strongly motivated to fulfill the request.
The Lincoln quote again. Be seen as a sincere friend.
It's the core of it. The guide puts it starkly, maybe a bit controversially. People will do almost anything that is asked of them by a friend.
Wow. So the implication is you have to be seen as a friend, or at least genuinely caring, to be truly persuasive.
That's the strong suggestion. All that stuff about building business friendship, the little extras, focusing on the long-term relationship.
It's not just nice, it's activating this fundamental law of influence.
Exactly. The guide gives an example using references. If you tell a potential customer, hey, Mr. Smith over at Microsoft had great success with this, assuming Mr. Smith is seen as a peer or ally.
The customer feels more confident. Like, if it worked for someone like me, it'll probably work for me too.
Huh.
Trust by association.
Right. Leveraging that friend's principle, we trust recommendations from people we feel are on our side.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
And the final law. Law #4.
Law #4. Scarcity. Basic principle. When a person perceives that something they might want is limited in quantity, the person perceives that the value of what they might want is greater.
Than if it were available in abundance. The limited time offer effect.
Exactly. While supplies last. Limit 2 per customer. Offer good only Sunday. Only 10,000 minted. All those phrases.
They trigger FOMO, fear of missing out. Makes things seem more desirable just because they're hard to get.
Taps into that instinct that rare things are valuable. Gotta grab it now. The guide mentions using seasons 2 holiday rushes, end of quarter sales to create that limited time urgency.
Okay, so reciprocity, contrast, friends, scarcity. 4 predictable ways people respond. Understanding them is key.
Key to persuading ethically, and key to recognizing when you're being persuaded ethically or not. It's about awareness.
Absolutely. Which leads us into the final section. Practical ways to refine your approach. Be more persuasive day to day.
Yeah, bring it all together with actionable tips. First big one, remember persuasion is a process, not a one-shot deal.
Like Covey's, seek first to understand. Gather input first.
Exactly. It's iterative. You gather input, maybe test a proposal, get feedback, modify your approach, maybe suggest an upsell, test again. It's a conversation.
A dialogue aiming for that collaborative solution, not just delivering a pitch and hoping it sticks.
Right. Another tip, use humor. The guide mentions research showing effective persuaders, like good sales folks, use humor way more often, 2 or 3 times more, than less effective, maybe more uptight ones.
Makes sense. Humor builds rapport, lowers defenses, makes you likable. Connects to the friends law again.
Just you're human, personable, enjoying the interaction, which links to the next big one. Tune in to WIFM.
What's in it for me? Always from their perspective.
Always. Effective persuaders figure out what the other person really wants, what their motivations are, and then they speak directly to that. How will they win? How does this solve their problem?
Using those other benefiting features, the OBFs, translate your solution into their value.
Exactly. Show them the what's in it for me. And delivering that effectively means balancing logic and emotion.
Logic on fire. I like that phrase.
Me too. Build the case with solid logic, clarity, strategy, benefits. But deliver it with passion's spark. Use stories, examples, metaphors that connect emotionally. As the source says, words are the arsenal. How you say it matters.
Substance plus style. Reason plus resonance.
Well put. And to deliver those words well, keep improving communication skills, especially verbal, face-to-face.
Even in our digital age.
The guide argues, yes, email's fine for informing maybe, but for persuading, selling, influencing, face-to-face is still king.
You get the body language, the immediate feedback, that human connection.
Right. A proposal isn't as good as a meeting. Email isn't as good as a call. It's the human touch. The guide even says relying too much on email or proposals means you're still playing in the minor leagues of persuasion.
Ouch. Strong words. But it highlights that direct connection. Okay, now for that really surprising advice. Stop trying.
Yeah, sounds totally backward right after all this talk about how to persuade.
It does. What's the logic there?
The idea is shift your focus. Instead of trying to apply techniques to persuade someone, focus on building genuine relationships where that kind of forced persuasion isn't necessary.
So the techniques work best when they're just natural, flowing out of a real connection.
Exactly. They should be spontaneous, genuine actions that arise naturally within relationships, not calculated moves. When you have real trust and rapport, people are already open to you because they believe you care. The techniques just amplify that.
So focus on the relationship foundation, logic, passion, ethics, ethical use of the laws, and the influence becomes more organic. Less doing to, more working with.
That's the essence of it. The techniques support the relationship, they don't replace it.
Makes sense. What other practical tips are in there?
Be confident. There's a study mentioned suggesting confident people are just more persuasive, even if they don't know more than someone less confident.
Confidence signals belief, certainty. It's contagious.
It is. Also, offer solutions, not demands, especially in negotiations, like overprice. Avoid take it or leave it.
Back to collaboration again.
Right. Work together. Ask questions like, okay, price is important, I get that. Is there anything else important to you we haven't talked about? Find other ways to add value or adjust things without just cutting the price.
Find that mutual ground. What else?
Use flattery, but sincerely. Genuine compliments show empathy, make people feel good, more receptive. The guide gives an example like, I know you really wanted that main floor room. I truly appreciate you being flexible.
Acknowledging their view, validating it, then appreciating their cooperation. Builds goodwill.
Definitely. And crucially, listen. After you make your point, zip it. Listen. Don't be a broken record. Let them process, respond. It's a dialogue.
So simple, so often forgotten.
And then there's that cool psychological one, use the magic word don't. Remember that study? People were 29% more likely to agree if you started with, I know you don't want to do this, but...
Crazy. Why does acknowledging their reluctance work?
It validates their feelings, shows you see their perspective. It subtly empowers them like, okay, you see, I might not want to. You're giving me the choice. It feels less like a demand. They might even want to prove you wrong.
Gives them agency. Clever. And the last tip mentioned, about giving reasons.
Give 3 reasons. When you ask for something, provide 3 distinct, Logical reasons why. It substantiates the request, shows you've thought it through.
Instead of just, can we meet Friday? It's, can we meet Friday because, one, I have more space then, two, I can give you more setup time, and three, it helps your budget.
Exactly. Builds a much stronger case, makes it easier for them to say yes.
Okay, wow. That's a ton of practical advice. Persuasion is a process. Humor, WIFM, logic and emotion, communication skills, the stop trying paradox, confidence, solutions not demands, sincere flattery, listening, the don't trick, and giving 3 reasons.
It really covers the spectrum, doesn't it? All reinforcing that blend of character, understanding people, communication skill, and relationship building.
So pulling it all together, we define persuasion as collaborative guidance, not force. We saw rapport is essential, built by focusing on others. Positive feelings, good questions, perspective. We hit the 3 legs, logic, passion, ethics. The stool needs all 3. And the laws. Reciprocity, contrast, friends, scarcity, predictable responses to understand.
And wrapped up with those practical strategies, highlighting that genuine relationships are the most fertile ground for ethical influence, making the techniques feel natural rather than forced.
This deep dive gives so much insight, way beyond just sales. Leading teams, teaching, negotiating, just connecting. Understanding these principles is huge. It's not only about how you can influence.
It's just as much about recognizing how others might be influencing you. That awareness is empowering.
Makes you a more conscious participant in all these interactions. Which leads us to that final thought for you, the listener. The guide warned that these powerful laws of persuasion can be misused by those lacking that crucial 3rd leg, ethics.
The potential for manipulation is real.
So given the power that comes with understanding these principles, how they guide thought, shape action, what's our responsibility? How do we make sure we use this knowledge ethically? Prioritizing genuine connection, collaborative solutions.
Instead of just resorting to manipulation or deceit to get what we want in the moment, it frames every persuasive interaction through the lens of integrity, not just effectiveness.
Absolutely. A critical question to keep asking, and that's our deep dive into the power of persuasion.